Hey everybody, hope you're all doing good out there. It's a chilly one today. I also have a random one to talk about. Don't worry, I'm not talking about this community or motovlogging. Of all the online communities there are, that being, like Facebook groups or posts about something, and then all the people that regularly comment about these things, the most judgmental group out of all of those that I've ever seen is welding. Of course, this is a bit of a perfect storm with the Dunning-Kruger effect, meaning the less that people know, the more willing they are to say something. And you've also got all those fancy surface welding TIG welders who make pretty pictures. And people think that if a weld doesn't look like a rainbow stack of dimes, then it's rubbish. And that's completely untrue. You can have proper ugly looking welds, as in fat, and they can be a lot more secure than, the fancy looking one. If you don't get the penetration and you just run it across the top, Now, I must say here, I do know how to weld. I'm self-taught, but I would call myself an amateur welder at best. And I definitely would never take on any proper structural work. In fact, the only job that I have actually been paid for welding-wise was to TIG weld a plate onto the bottom of a shaft, which is part of the steering system for a yacht. The person who wanted me to do this, I said to them, I don't think I should do that work, and went, it's fine. I could watch you do it, and he watched me and he was like, I don't see a single problem with that, looks good to me, seems strong enough to me, and he's a professional, and he said, yeah, it's good, and paid me my wage. But that was very much a friend doing a friend a favour. That was what he did as a business. So, I'm not talking about someone who just asked me to do it for them, but I'm having to explain all this because of how judgmental this group of people can be. And what I mean by just how judgmental they can be was that there was just a genuine little post about someone learning to weld or something along those lines. They weren't taking some certificate or certification, they weren't doing anything complicated, they were just showing their progression of welding. And one of the responses said, unless you cut it in half and show me a cross section, or you x-ray it, I don't care and I'm not impressed. I bet that guy has never touched a welding gun in his entire life. Because if you look at the posts about welding, the amount of people that go off, experts that go off about welding in welding posts, makes you think that there are just thousands of welders out there. It's just that disparity between just how many people seem to be experts to a level that they're going to go online and tell an amateur what they're doing wrong. Yet when if you speak to people around you, how many people do you know who can weld, or weld to a standard which would be considered that good? You might know a few. If you're a welder, you'll probably know quite a lot. Most people know one or two people that can weld, but very often that's more like, I need a bit of welding done for my MOT. Can you slap a couple of plates on for me? And they're like, sure. Bish, bash, bosh, slap. Pass. That is not to say that I am any better than them, to be clear. I am proclaiming here, as I've said, to be nothing but amateur. But I'd say it just surprises me. And of all the communities I've been part of online, I'm not saying I'm part of the welding community, I'm just saying that I've seen over the years, I have not seen one more fierce, judgmental, argumentative, keyboard warrior experty than the welding community online. I would love to know more if you are a welder and you're more part of these things. I mean, I know I've even seen posts by people that have purposely trolled, the trolls as it were, by having some super complicated thing going on that they aren't going to get, and then they all go mad. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're getting mad about the simple thing, but what you've overlooked is the actual thing that an expert welder would know, and it just proves how many of you don't know what you're talking about. Do you know of a more judgmental community online? As I say, when you've got a complete amateur being held to the standards of what people doing proper top-end certifications and stuff in welding would do, it just is like it's a bit unreasonable. And I don't honestly think that anyone who's an actual expert in the subject would be that judgmental, because they understand how complicated it can be and how much there is to learn, and that people have to go through that path themselves. Don't get me wrong, I would totally understand why people would lean on someone a bit if, for instance, they put a post up and said, I've just welded in this ceiling beam of a building, and they've just done it so badly that anyone can tell it's about to fall down, or that they're trying to offer welding work publicly when they can't perform a safe structural weld. So I totally get where there does need to be yeah, okay, no, that's not cool. But when it comes to someone, say, literally welding something together themselves, maybe an ornament, maybe just a small desk or something, and it's only them that's going to be at risk, I think, you know, people can learn from their mistakes, and I'm sure they can snot a table together enough to hold the weight of a computer, maybe. I don't know, I'm just using an example here. I'm not talking about any one person or any one particular thing particularly. And there's also the side of it, which I've talked about myself a lot before now, which is where some criticism's been aimed at me when I've done some how-to videos that people have basically said it's too basic. It's, you know, this is no good, when the idea was it was supposed to be the fundamentals. And this leads to the thing where if someone's teaching you, they can do it in two ways. They can try and make themselves sound smart by overcomplicating it so they know that you're going to find it hard to pick up, or they can do the thing where they actually want to teach you the subject, where they simplify it, simplify language, use metaphors, go along with you slowly bit by bit to try and make sure you've understood the subject properly in a good way. You know, it's better to know how and why something works than how to do it, because if you know the hows and the whys, you can teach yourself the next bit, the actual how-tos, with practice. As I say, I'm not trying to add any hate in here. I understand where it's due, but I think there are some places where it's definitely not due, and it's a bit unfair to people. What do you think? Do you know of a community more judgmental, more expert-filled than the welding one? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you've got any welding stories, go and leave them below, because I do find those funny. And of course, a massive thank you to my Patreon supporters. Just to say, recently, because of the way that life has been, I've been up to 18 days ahead with uploads onto Patreon. So if you join Patreon, you can see videos up to like 2 weeks early at times. It's just the way it rolls. But anyway, I'll catch you on the next one.